All right, everybody, welcome. A couple of days ago, I wrote a PDF about the top 5 markets in which you could wholesale and flip mortgage delinquent deals. So that's people that they have a mortgage against their property and they're not able to pay the bank and they're falling farther and farther behind. These are really good sources for motivated seller leads. So what I've decided to do here is kind of really briefly go through the PDF. We'll talk about the top 5 markets really briefly and why I picked them. Um, and then keep in mind too, like I prefaced at the beginning of the PDF, if you read it, this isn't an official list I got off a data solution site. This is solely at my discretion. I took into account, as you could see here, um, we looked at the percentage of mortgage delinquent loans, the total percentage of mortgage delinquent loans in these counties. We took into account the overall pre-foreclosure volume, as well as the number of zombie properties. And a zombie property is somebody who has gone into pre-foreclosure and they just abandoned the house. They left it vacant. So it's a vacant pre-foreclosure home. And then it's pretty self-explanatory, but those are obviously very, very motivated sellers most of the time. All right, so let's get started here. Number 5 on the list, we'll go in descending order, is Suffolk County, New York. Suffolk County is where Long Island is. That's probably why it's familiar to a lot of people. It's number 5 on the list. So overall, it's a pretty affluent area. It's a very desirable area. Even more so when COVID hit in 2020, a lot of the people that were living in the city of New York, they kind of fled. They wanted more space. There was that little movement, if you guys remember. So they fled to, parts of upstate New York and parts of Suffolk County as well, just to have a backyard. They didn't want to be living on top of people with the COVID scare going around, all that stuff. So right now, it's definitely in a seller's phase of the market cycle. There's really high demand there, as I mentioned before. And, you would be surprised, but there's a lot of pre-foreclosure activity. So at the time of creating this report for you guys, there was almost 4,800 people in an active pre-foreclosure situation. That is a ton for right now. And keep in mind, that's only going to go up as that market in Suffolk County, because remember, guys, real estate's a local game. It's a local game. So you have to pay attention to local market cycles. So as we watch Suffolk County, once it starts to shift into a neutral market and then swing even on the buyer side, because eventually that will happen. I know it's tough to imagine because everything's so crazy. It's a seller's market, but eventually the pendulum is going to switch, especially in this market. And once it's a neutral market to buyer's market, that 4,800 pre-foreclosure volume is only going to increase. And to be honest, if there's 4,800 people right now in an active pre-foreclosure situation in a seller's market, God only knows what it's going to be in a buyer's market, neutral market. So that could possibly shift on a dramatic scale. All right. So another big advantage of looking to wholesale or flip mortgage delinquent properties in this area is the state of New York is a judicial state. What this means is in order for a bank or a mortgage servicer to foreclose on a property, they have to take the homeowner through the foreclosure process. So they have to put a list pendants on the property, go through that process, and then they have to take the homeowner through the court system. This takes a very long time in every judicial state. New York is one of the absolute slowest. All right. And especially because they had a very liberal leaning government throughout this whole COVID thing. A lot of these foreclosures are jammed up right now. So the court systems are backed up with active foreclosure filings and, people that aren't even in pre-foreclosure yet. So what this means for you as an investor is when you do find someone that's behind on their mortgage in pre-foreclosure, you're going to have, the chances are you're going to have ample time to help these people, because again, by the time the bank could actually foreclose on them, they have to go through a daunting process and the courts are super jammed up in New York. All right. And then also in the entire state of New York, which as a state, it has a relatively high pre-foreclosure volume. Suffolk County is by far number one in the entire state out of all the counties. All right, so that's just a number reason. That's just icing on the cake. All right, moving on. Market number 4 is Cuyahoga County. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not, but it's famously known as Cleveland. All right, Cleveland is in this county. It's number 4 on my list. At the time of me creating this report, there's a little over 2,200 active pre-foreclosures, which is definitely a good amount. Out of those 2,200, okay, 641 are headed to an actual foreclosure auction. All right, so that means out of those 2,200 people, there's a good chance that over 600 of them, if they want to sell, are going to be super motivated because they are headed to the auction block within a 90-day period. All right. Now, if you end up choosing this market, or if you're in this market already, it's very important to understand that out of those 2,200 plus pre-foreclosures, the active pre-foreclosures, over 1,600 are located within the city limits of Cleveland. Let me repeat that because that's pretty astonishing. You know, we all hear about the 80-20 rule, Pareto principle. You know, I read the book, it's fantastic, but you know, typically whatever area you're looking, whenever there's a problem, most of that problem is coming from one specific area, whether it's in our businesses, with our health, with our finances, whatever the case is. This is no different when it comes to pre-foreclosures in a state. And the state of Ohio and the city of Cleveland are a perfect example. So let's go over this again. In the whole state of Ohio at the time of this writing, just over 2,200 active pre-foreclosures, just over 1,600. So 71% of all the active pre-foreclosures are within the city limits of Cleveland. So if you're an Ohio investor, you're going to want to write that down, and you're going to want to move your business over to Cleveland if you're looking to find motivated sellers that you can help. All right. One thing about Cleveland, definitely very, very nice parts of Cleveland, but there are a lot of working class areas there, and there's a lot of C, D, and even F, rougher areas of Cleveland, just like any city. But so when you get, especially like those D and F areas, those rougher areas, a lot of them, they're not having huge swings of appreciation. Okay. So what that means is when a property owner in one of these neighborhoods gets into trouble with their mortgage, because they're not, even in a high seller's market, because they're not experiencing huge appreciation of their values on their properties, you know, there's a good chance that as they fall behind, they're going to be upside down on their mortgages. They're going to lose equity very quickly. And this gives really good opportunities to do short sales, which is, anyone who knows me, I love short sales. That's my specialty. All right. Now, New York as a state is number one when it comes to the highest percentage of zombie properties. As we said before, vacant pre-foreclosures. But this county, Cuyahoga County, is number one when it comes to all the counties in the United States. That is very, very important if you're looking for motivated mortgage delinquent sellers to wholesale these deals, flip them, buy and hold, whatever. When you get into these zombie properties, guys, very, very motivated sellers. And this particular county in Ohio has tons of them. All right. Moving on, market number 3 on the list, Broward County, Florida. This is another one. You're probably a little shocked to see this just because it's definitely very, very hot. I mean, the rest of Florida, you know, pretty much every market in Florida is super red hot right now. Lots of people moving in. Lots of people love the weather. They love DeSantis, whatever the case is, tons of people flooding here to the great state of Florida. But I had to put this on here because there is a ton of active pre-foreclosures. All right. The only out of all the counties in Florida, I think there's 62 or 65, something like that. Broward County is number 2 on the list, only second to Miami. So there's over 3,400 active pre-foreclosures. which is a lot, especially in a seller's market. And then we have Fort Lauderdale is a very popular city. That's the largest city in this county. So that means there's more housing inventory for you to go after. And, there's more and more people that are going to fall behind on their mortgage just from a volume standpoint. Another thing to keep in mind when you talk about Florida is, a lot of the people own, it's a fairly wealthy state, and a lot of people buy secondary properties, not even for really investment purposes, but for vacation purposes. And this is very prevalent in the city of Fort Lauderdale and the surrounding areas. What happens is, guys, when someone hits a hard time and they own two properties, they hit a hard time financially, they can't keep up with both of them, they're going to be more motivated to get rid of that secondary home, especially if they're struggling to pay the mortgage on it. So that creates a lot of motivation. They just want to get it off their plate, liquidate the asset, and move on, which is a great sign for you as the wholesaler or the house flipper. Okay, so that's very important to remember when you're looking in these markets in Florida, especially South Florida, because there's lots of tourism, lots of secondary homes there. All right, let's stay in Florida for our market number 2, Miami-Dade. Very popular. Everybody knows about Miami. Again, this is a situation where the tech scene is blowing up, tourism's blowing up. There's heavy positive migration into Miami, so you're probably surprised to see it. But Miami, there is the active pre-foreclosure list, which is always, I don't know what it is, guys, about Miami. It always has tons and tons of people foreclosing. Right here, I'm going to highlight this. The active number of people in pre-foreclosure is around 5,000. And as I will remind you, like I did with some of the other markets like Suffolk, like Broward, this is a friggin' seller's market. This is a seller's market, and there's 5,000 people that are in pre-foreclosure. And guess what? That doesn't even count. That 5,000 number doesn't even represent all the people that are behind on their mortgage. That's just the people that are so far behind that they've entered into pre-foreclosure. If you are a wholesaler in Miami or in South Florida or anywhere close, I would start to look into that Miami area. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to get some good deals and help some people out, of course. So an additional 1,600, this is also important to note. In addition to that 5,000, there's about 1,600 people that have already been, there's active REO properties. The bank took them back and they're looking to sell them. So even if you want to, obviously we all love off-market deals. It's smart to pursue those deals. But, you could go on right now. There's like 1,600 plus properties that have been repossessed. You could try to get them right from the bank. All right. Also, something cool that I wanted to add in here is, as I mentioned before, there's a huge net positive migration to Miami. Tech scene's blowing up. They're like the crypto capital of the world. Real estate's blowing up. Everything's going crazy. So lots of people moving there, which is going to create a lot of investor demand. So this is a shout out to the wholesalers who are watching this. There's probably a lot of competition in Miami to get these deals. Once you can get these deals, as long as it's a good deal, you get it under market value, you should not have any issue pushing it to house flippers, because there's a lot of people looking to flip in Miami, lots of investor demand. So that's just an additional reason you should be in this market. Drum roll, please. Market number 1, Cook County, Illinois. Cook County is home to Chicago, which is the 3rd largest city in America. All right. This is important because the size is important because, when you mix lots of people being behind on their mortgage, all right, a high volume, a high percentage of the population missing mortgage payments, when you combine that with a high population in general, it's going to create a lot of opportunity. So it's the 3rd largest city, millions and millions of people. And another thing, guys, there's a lot of net migration. All right. Lots of people moving out of, the greater Chicago area right now. Beautiful city. A lot of people love living there. I'm not saying anything derogatory, but it's just a fact. There's you're starting to see a lot of net migration. I think people are, fed up with the crime in the city, and, some of the politics isn't great. A lot of people are fed up with the policies of the city. So a lot of people, I mean, it's not crazy right now, but it's definitely swinging, at least within the city limits of Chicago, it's swinging in the direction of a net migration. All right. So what that's going to do is lead to that phrase that I've used a million times already, zombie properties. It's going to lead to more zombie properties. People fall behind on their mortgage, and at the same time, they're fleeing the city. It's going to leave a lot of pre-foreclosure properties that are vacant, which, as I explained before, for obvious reasons, this creates an extremely motivated situation. All right. So, you're talking about a population of over 5 million people. Really, the opportunity speaks for itself. Over 5 million people living in there. Combine that with a high pre-foreclosure rate, lots of opportunity to help. Okay. Now, let's stay on the pre-foreclosure volume. It is, out of all the counties in the entire country, Cook County, just not even percentage of pre-foreclosure, the actual pre-foreclosure volume is the most by far out of any other county in the country. At the time of this report, there's over 7,000 active pre-foreclosures, which, again, I know there's a little bit of net migration, but overall, it's still a seller's market, man. Chicago's still, properties are still moving. It's still a pretty healthy market. And my Lord, there's over 7,000 people in active pre-foreclosure. Of those 7,000, there's about 1,100 headed to the foreclosure auction block within the next 90 days. So again, that creates a little bit of extra motivation. So going back to that 80-20 rule, as we talked about, and what market was it? Was it Miami? No, man, I'm blanking out. Cuyahoga County, Cleveland made up for like 71% of the active pre-foreclosures in that whole county. This is another crazy example here. Not as much as Cleveland, but you'll see right here, guys, 50% of that 7,000 active pre-foreclosures are within the city limits of Chicago. So again, self-explanatory. If you're an investor, you're a wholesaler, landlord, whatever, in Cook County, and you're looking for more motivated sellers, you want to be looking within Chicago city limits, especially if you're looking to pursue people that have fallen behind on their mortgage. So 50% is a lot. So yeah, those are the 5 markets. I hope everybody who read this little ebook enjoyed it. I hope it helps, especially for you virtual wholesalers out there that are looking to, jump into your first market. Maybe you're looking for opportunities to expand your wholesaling operation or your flipping operation. I really hope this can help. It's a little unconventional. I don't exactly use the same metrics that ATOM Data uses and CoreLogic and those big companies, but this is just from data that I get from my own business and my own operations. So got a little bit of a twist to it, but I hope it helps. Before I wrap up, please go follow my YouTube channel. It's Universal Short Sales. Again, it's Universal Short Sales. I just created it. I'm always putting content like this out there. I'm always putting, content, relevant, distressed real estate news, how to go after pre-foreclosure leads, how to deal with short sales, really beneficial short videos that could help you in your business. So, all right, guys, have a great day. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you soon.